everybody, and welcome to the Solidity Insurance Group team call. Today is March 13th of 2025, so wrapping up week 2 as of tomorrow. And super excited to have a teammate on the call with us, somebody who when I'm around personally, I feel like a calm aura and I just feel good about the things around me. And that's always a good place to be, whether you're in the business, you're outside the business, or maybe you just catch up with him and his brother at the airport. It's kind of a good thing to bring you at ease and bring you at bay when you have that person who kills it in the business, but also has their mind on right. So I'd like to welcome Vernon Smith onto the call with us. Vernon, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm blessed. I woke up today, made it back from Vegas safe, so I have no complaints. Yep.
Amen. Amen to that. And you typically don't have complaints, which is always a good thing if you ask me. But you mentioned you just came back from Vegas. You were at the lock-in, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe give us like one or two takeaways you had before we jump into a little bit about Vernon.
So I have several. Can I?
Yeah,
I
rocket.
actually so I'm gonna kind of go from the easiest one and kind of work my way up if it's okay. Can I take about 5 minutes or so or whatever it is if that's
Yeah,
okay?
please do.
Yeah, okay. So one thing is what I took away is go to lock-ins. Like it's like just in general, you gotta go to at least one. I've been in this business over 2 years and sadly this is my first lock-in. And now that I've experienced it, I'm like, why didn't I go a year and a half, 2 years ago, right? But it is what it is. I can't change the past here I'm at. So I'd say definitely go to lock-in. It's just so much that you can gain from it, being elbow to elbow with other people. Now, why I say you should go to a lock-in. So one thing is for new agents, it just allows you to just see things that you and be in a more intimate setting than just being on Zoom or going to a huge national convention or annual convention. You're literally like side by side with someone who's crushing it, doing Hall of Fame numbers. And so that's one of the things that I really think that people should go to is for that reason. Now, there's some key takeaways that I took. Heather, she talked about having a dial tracker. Like I didn't even know at this point in the game she was still using a dial tracker. That shocked me, and now I'm like, okay, I need to humble myself and get back to having a dial tracker because I stopped using it, think I was, King Tut and all that stuff. So I stopped using it, and so she brought me back to that, and then also to have a plan. What's your day looking like? Are you starting at 6, 7, 8? Right. If it's 5 o'clock on the West Coast because you want to hit East Coast, maybe you should be at your office at 5 a.m. But either way, what's your plan going to look like for you? Playing out your day. Who are you texting? Who are you calling? How many times did you do this? How much time did you put to self-development? Right. Put that all in there. Make sure you're attending the meetings that we have set up. Right. Put all of that into your schedule so that you're not missing these important meetings, which we're on right now. So anyone who's missing this is missing this. Right. And it usually reflects in their numbers. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. That's just what it is. So that's two things that I took from Heather. So thank you, Heather, for speaking in Vegas. Now, there's another agent that was there that I took something from. I think her name was Mazaretta. I don't know if somebody can correct me. She's a Hall of Famer. I think she's like 21, 22 years old, right? And her brother came into the business. He was a Hall of Famer as well. He wasn't in Vegas, but she was. So sorry about that. So she was there, and I know in that 2 days it was like a little competition, healthy competition. She wrote 7 policies in those 2 days, and essentially it was really just one day because we were mostly doing trainings the rest of the time. So it was kind of just really one day, and to see her smash policies in one day and just so nice and calm for her age, I'm over here like, ooh, if I sell one or two, I'm like, hey, where's the couch at? Should I go read a book, right? Do I open up my Christian crossword puzzle, right? And just kind of move away because I'm like, I've satisfied my day. But then now I'm looking back, like if she could crush 7, like why can I not crush 3, 4, 5, or even 7 of my own? Why not even just shoot for 10 in a day? Why not? So it's not like I've never closed 20,000 in a day before AP, but I think by doing it consistently and saying, all right, even though I've won, let's go win and get that winning feeling over and over and over. And even if it's in the same day, it's perfectly okay to go do that. So by seeing her doing it just nice and calm, no big deal, no under pressure, while still talking to other people and giving them advice, I was like, okay, that's what I want to see. But you don't really see that if you don't go to lock-ins, right? And that's how I kind of looked at that. Another thing that I took away, again, I know I'm taking some time here, is the cost of building your business, right? And this came from Andrew Taylor. Andrew Taylor? Yeah, Andrew Taylor. So he was there and he talked about the fact that he never started becoming good until he had lead flow. He'd pay $100 here, $100 there, but it wasn't until he put his lead flow on automatic that everything just started taking off from there, and he was able to write a bunch of policies, which is why he became kind of who he is. But the other thing that he talked about that was very important, this is probably going to scare almost everybody on this call, is that there was a meeting that he was in, opportunity he had when he first got started. So this 10 years ago, whatever it was, when he first got started, Sean Mike and I don't know whoever else gave him an opportunity and said, who in this room would pay $10,000 for to be one-on-one and shadow me to grow your business? And not one person in that room said yes, except for guess who? Andrew Taylor. And Andrew Taylor did not even have the 10,000, but he figured out a way to get to 10,000 because it wasn't about the $10,000. And I realized in that meeting that it's not about the cost of entry. It's the cost of what you're losing by not getting that opportunity to learn and be around the best. And he was like, if Sean Mike is crushing it and he runs our company and I get to walk around with him, and all I gotta do is find money to go do that, I'm gonna go find money to do that. And now that $10,000, so think about it, he got his own $10,000 from somewhere. He never told us where. And he went to that and he shadowed Sean Mike. Now he has the number one grossing team in FFL. He does 19 to 20 million a month because he sacrificed $10,000 10 years ago. So it's really just the opportunity cost, really what it comes down to. The opportunity to go and learn and shadow the best. He was willing to do that. But most of us are not even willing to pay, $1,000 a week for leads, right? $2,000 a week or whatever it might be, right? And I struggle with that a little bit, right? Right now I'm at about 6,000 a week or a month on leads. But Rami hit me up the other day, was like, you need to be spending more, right? If you want to get to where you want to go, right? So that's one thing I took from Andrew Taylor. And then, of course, the last thing I want to say before we jump into things about me is Sean Mike, of course, was there. Love Sean Mike. He's just brutally honest. And that was his key takeaway was like, whatever you're doing, just be brutally honest. It might hurt their feelings, whoever you're talking to, but as long as you're honest, that's their issue to deal with. It's not you. Now, if you're lying to them, if you're trying to manipulate them in a negative way, that's a different thing. But as long as if you're honest with yourself, honest with your agents, and then honest with your clients, then things are going to work out the way they're supposed to work out. And again, we all have things, not everybody likes everyone in the world, but as long as you're honest with whoever you're speaking to, then the results are going to work out the way they're supposed to work out. Right. And one last thing, respect your time. If you're on the phone with a client and you're going through setting the table, however verbiage you guys use, I call it setting the table, and you're going through it and you realize that they're not going to be a good candidate. They're just there for a quote. They're not going to get around the fact of that. They're not going to give you their banking information. Get off the phone. Like, why waste another second on someone that you know is not going to be there to at least commit to a 30-day window that they have of getting this policy put in place? You have 30 days to think about it. Why would you not at least commit to that and then tweak the numbers around and worst case cancel if you need to? So if someone's wasting your time and you can tell that, then get off the phone. It was who was it that said it? Dominic Rogers. Dominic Rogers was the one. He was up there speaking about online, and he said that if someone's driving their car, ask them when they're going to be home. If it's within 15 minutes, you can start the process and go through it, right? And when they get home and settle, you can get to the nitty gritty. But in the meantime, you just talk about surface stuff and kind of start sitting at the table. But if they're not going to be home for an hour and a half, get off the phone. Tell them that I need your undivided attention. When you get home, let's knock it out at that particular point. And anybody you need to bring on board, bring them on as well. All right. So those are the several takeaways I took from that lock-in. And again, I've never been to one. Glad I went to it. There's one next month on the 21st in Vegas again. Just to let you guys know, in case you didn't know, Andrew Taylor kind of looks at Sean Mike like, hey, you're going to be here next month. And Sean Mike's like, why? Because we have another lock-in right on the 21st. And you could tell Sean Mike probably didn't know that he had a lock-in, but he was like, yep, I'm going to be there, right? So myself and my brother are going to be driving up again next month to go to the Vegas lock-in as well, because it's only 4 hours away. So we'll definitely be there. So anyway, all right. So that's all I have for right now. Thank you for that.
I love that. And I love how you ended with like because it's only 4 hours. So guys, I want
Oh,
you to like
yeah.
eternalize that. Like if you are in a vicinity anywhere that's only 4 hours from another walk-in, I don't care if it's Vegas, I don't care if it's
Alabama,
Baton Rouge, Louisiana,
Orlando. Yeah.
yeah, pick your favorite place. Like if you are in a 4 hour to 6 hour driving vicinity, it doesn't make sense to me why you wouldn't go unless like you just simply really like don't care if I'm being 100% honest. So I love how you also meant, Vernon, I'm going to give you in just a second, I'm going to ask you for like a short intro for folks that don't know you on this call. I know
Sure.
a lot of us do. However, I do want to give you an opportunity to share your story, but I love how you said like I had to humble myself a little bit about the dial tracker because it's something so small, right? But it's something that can make like a big difference. Like it could be the difference between, right? Like me having a 30, helping 30 families or me helping 50, right? Like, because I know where I'm at. So, like, I think that that's huge because when you've been in this industry for sometimes some of us 90 days, we think like we know everything. And like, newsflash, guys, and I love everybody on this call, like, I don't know everything. And I'm pretty sure I have the longest, and I'm not like, guys, we don't get paid for tenure in the insurance industry, but I'm pretty sure I've been in the industry the longest. And like I still show up and learn every single day. I still go to the lock-ins with the intent of what am I going to take away from this and bring back home, right? Like Vernon's doing the same thing and he's writing at a very high level. So I love to hear like when you were there, you didn't just go there for attendance, Vernon. Like you went there to show up, actually lock in, utilize the experience, not only for yourself, but for, your brother and people you're bringing in, which has been awesome, which we're going to talk a little bit about. And then also you're recognizing like, hey, I saw this, young lady there. She was helping other people. She wrote 7 policies within a day, and it showed me like, hey, I can push myself a little bit further on certain days, right? So I love seeing the growth within you, and I think that it's awesome. And then also, guys, like you leaned in on so many great points here, Vernon, right at the beginning. I'm like, man, we could have a whole call on this. Like, don't let people waste your time, guys. Like your time is literally money. The less you value your time, the more time you're just going to put out there and you're going to be like, I wasted my time talking to these 8 people today. And I went through the whole presentation, but they were all in the car. It's like, you knew they were in the car, man. Like you knew you shouldn't have started, but you decided to, right? So don't let people abuse your time and like whatever you're doing, just be honest. I love that. Like when you're working from a place of like, hey, I'm just being honest and shooting you straight, the client, the agent you're working with, yourself, right? Like, because we can lie to ourselves. I've lied to myself plenty of times, right? It changes the game. So, Vern, I love how you opened up with that. And I'm really happy that you were able to make it to Vegas and that you're going to make the commitment to get out there again in a month from now. Now, for those folks out there that maybe don't know you too much, Vernon, give us an intro about yourself, maybe what you were doing before insurance, what got you kind of into the industry, and why you choose to do your business with Family First Life.
Perfect. So, for those who don't know, and you can look at my background and get an idea, I was actually born and raised in Hawaii. So, my dad is a Marine from Virginia, served in the military, got out when I was born. And then my mom is actually from Hawaii. So, I'm actually part Hawaiian. I have some Polynesian blood in me. And so, my middle name is Kimo. It looks like chemotherapy, but Kimo, which means James in English. But me and my siblings all got Hawaiian middle names. So, I was born and raised there and then didn't like how life was growing up. So at 18, I joined the Air Force and to serve my country and get away. So it was a two-pronged thing. Went around the world and my last base was here in at Luke Air Force Base in Arizona, which is where I reside now. And so that's where that kind of my journey first started at. Learned about discipline, things of that nature. Got to see the world and very blessed to have been deployed multiple times, but not to any crazy places, thank goodness. And then when I got out, I said, all right, no, I've been told what to do for the rest of my life. I wear the same uniform every single day. I want to do something different. I want to become an entrepreneur. So I just literally Googled how to make $100,000 without going back and getting another degree because I had a medical degree if you wanted something different. And then I got into notary and did 6 figures a year as a notary, real estate notary. So I got to stamp documents and things like that for people purchasing, selling homes and properties. So once I left that, my brother said, hey, let's start a fingerprinting business. And I was like, there's not much money in this business, but I'm like, I want to support you. And so we did, and not Paul, by the way, a different brother of mine. Right. And so we started that business, but I knew there was no money in it. But I was like, I want to support him. So as we were marketing in the building we were renting out, I ran into my former upline, right, when I got into the business, and he kind of painted a nice picture of, hey, I can show you how to make 30K a month if you just follow what I tell you. And he was like, it's selling life insurance. I was like, oh, I don't know about selling life insurance because I didn't believe in life insurance at the time. Obviously, I changed my mind now, but at the time, I was all against, like your typical, all against life insurance. So when he said that the 30K number, I was like, okay, even if it's 15, I'm good with 15 a month, right? And so that's drew me in. I looked at my other brother who I started the company with and say, hey, do you mind if I go do this? You got the fingerprint thing. You've been doing it anyway. I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs. So that's how it all started. And then I got into it and said, hey, this looks like a good company. And you know, I've been going ever since then. So that's how I'm at this point.
I love it. And first and foremost, thank you for your service, really and truly like heartfelt. And you have a lot of unique things to you, but I think the cool thing about it, Vernon, is like you always just tie it back to like reality. Like straight like that. Like you always just tie it back like I'm just a person and this is just what I'm doing and you're humble about it. Now, kind of rewind or fast forward rather into kind of where you're at now. It's like, Vernon, if we put your numbers up, I think that most folks would be like, oh wow, he's really humble. Like I would definitely say like you're extremely humble and that's a good thing, right? But when we come in, there can be times, right? I know for me, Vernon, anyways, there's been times that I'm like, this isn't working, or like I feel frustrated, or like, and I don't know why, right? Um, and it typically goes back to fundamentals. And that's why I love at the beginning, you were like talking about the dial tracker because like it's something so small, but it matters so great when like those moments of like what's going on or like what can I do better? What can I fix? Right? Because sometimes we resort to essentially like self-sabotaging, right? We're like, I suck, or like I'm never gonna sell insurance again, right? Like, I'm never gonna sell a policy again. I blanked for one day. Like we've all been there mentally, right? But it's kind of like, how do you get yourself out of that trap? Or how do you get yourself to a place where you're not viewing yourself as like this mighty person? You're just viewing yourself as like, I'm Vernon. I work my schedule. I do my thing. And if something's out of whack, Vernon, what are you usually like examining or looking at if things don't feel normal for you?
Sure. Right. So for me, it's very obvious. I don't know about other people. I'm not in denial, right? I know that the reason why I'm not doing 50 plus a month is because I don't work my schedule. I can tell you what my schedule is, but I don't work my schedule the way I should be working it, right? I tend to have a mentality of, well, if my first appointment that's already booked for me that I wake up to is at 8 a.m., and I can sleep until 6:30, then I can read my Bible, then I can maybe go to the gym. Like I have this thing where like I base my day off of my first appointment instead of basing my day off of that set time and going, you're in the office at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. Even if you don't have an appointment then, because now you can take care of back office stuff. So I know exactly when I'm not doing well, why I'm not doing well is because of lack of consistent activity. CA, consistent activity. And so even if you have nothing supposedly going on at 7, if you're telling yourself you need to be in the office at 7, you need to be in the office at 7. And that's what I struggle with. And so whenever I'm looking at it and I'm not doing bigger numbers than what I'm doing, I know why I'm not doing it. Or my break for lunch is not till 12, like say 12 to 1, but at 11:35, hey, this sounds like a good time. I just wrote a policy. Why don't I just take a longer lunch and still not come back to 1, but take a longer lunch. You deserve it. You sold one policy. So, but instead of it being 12 to 1, I will take that extra time. So I know exactly why my numbers are not consistent, why they go up and down. Is because my activity is up and down. And so it's easy for me to track it. I'm not in denial of that. That's for me is really where I come back to, is knowing that I'm not following my schedule the way I should. No, 100%.
Absolutely. And Vernon, I love how you led with like, I'm not in denial. Like you're like, and like by the way, like guys, I wasn't pointing that question like at Vernon and saying like,
Right.
Vernon, you do this, right? I was just saying like, hey, Vernon,
Right.
like what do you do if you're in this situation? But it's like Vernon just is calling himself out. He's like, hey, like I know I could do more when I follow my schedule. Like that's cool. Like guys, all of us on here could do more if we followed our schedule. And anyone else that is disagreeing with Vernon right now, like you're just flat out in denial. Like you're in denial. And like I love you, but just like Vernon said, lunch starts at 12. Sometimes you make that sale. It's 12, it's 11, it's 11:32 and you're like, Well, just 28 minutes. Like, it's
Yeah.
just right. Like, so, oh, let me give myself that hour and 28-minute break. Guys, that could be the difference between, right? Like, Vernon, I've been there. Like, you have somebody answer the phone that maybe you followed up with. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm ready for the insurance. And you're just like, oh, real? Oh, shoot. Okay, John. You weren't ready the last six times. Like, you ready now? Like, let's do it, right? So, guys,
And
it's
if I
like,
could add something to that, Marisa, is that
yeah.
also that 28 minutes there might not be a sale, but it's that next phone call closer to that next sale. And that's the issue that we run into when we don't have a consistent schedule, right? If
Right,
we're
and that
consistent with schedule,
consistent
our call,
activity. Like you said that. I like how you use the acronyms like me, like the CA, consistent activity. Like, guys, you can be killing it on the phones Monday morning, but if you don't have cumulative activity going in from last week into that, like you might feel like you're getting killed on the phone. But in reality, it's just because your activity hasn't been consistent. I know like there's been times, Vernon, I'm sure you can relate. You've maybe taken a trip, a vacation, whatever it might have been, a couple of days off. You're getting back into the swing of things and everything just feels a little bit slow. And it's because we hadn't had that CA or consistent activity happening. Therefore, it doesn't feel like it's a compounding effect. Feels
right?
like it's kind of working against you versus for you. So guys, like let's allow things work to work for us. And guys, the biggest thing again I want to just point out here is like when I do things wrong, which like I'm definitely not perfect. Anybody that's ever talked to me or even just on this call, like y'all know I'm not perfect. Like I'm definitely not. I'm not going for perfect. God made me imperfect for a reason. Now, with that being said, I'm not in denial about it. Okay. Like I know there's things I got to work on, right? Vernon's like, hey, I know that if I did ABC, I'm going to get EFG. Like, so not being in denial about things and just being able to call yourself out is huge. Like, this question wasn't directed towards Vernon, but he was just like, hey, let me use myself as an example because I'm humble enough to do that. And guys, when you can do that, you're going to be able to take yourself to the next level. And that's what it's really about in this business is like, how much can you grow as a person? Because I think when we grow as people, it really actually reflects a lot more in our business. Um, Now, with that being said, what are some of the things, Vernon, that you started doing to see success in terms of shifting it to a positive mindset? We all wake up, we have bad days, we have things that happen to us, right? We all have different things, right? And I know you have your things as well, Vernon. Like when you're having a tough day, like what are some of the things that you do that or you've grown into doing that help you get from a negative place to a positive place?
Right. So again, everybody has their own routine, and I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. Every day I have to read my Bible. Every day I have to pray. Every day I have to work on my Spanish because that's one of my goals is to be able to speak Spanish. And then every day I have to read. Now, do I do all those things every single day? No. And then that's why I think sometimes you kind of lopsided, like you take away one leg, you fall over, right? And a lot we use that in the military, but tying down Air Force jets. There's like four tie downs, but if your religion's not there, boom, that pops, right? If your social life is not where it needs to be for whatever reason, that falls off, right? At some point, the wind's coming by and the jet's going to topple over, right? The more tie downs you have that are not tied down, that are loose. And so for me, it's like I have to ground myself into certain things, reading things of the nature, crossword puzzle, and things like that. All those things that I have to do. Going to the gym. If I don't go to the gym at least twice a week, I can tell the difference. I can feel it in my body. I don't feel as confident, right? And cocky in a good way, right? Confident, right? I can just tell. Like it's just like, and again, I'm about to get real again. There's people in this room, and I'm sure they can say this. We battle anxiety, depression, right? It's real, right? And sometimes I think I battle both. I know I have anxiety, fear of the future, and then I also have depression, sad things of things I regret that I did or did not do in the past, right? And so when you don't have your system down and your flow of the day, everything magnifies off of that. So for me, it's like if I can stick to the reading, making sure I'm getting up on time, going to the gym at least 3 days a week, things like that, I just feel better. I feel better when I get on the phone, when I'm talking to clients. I feel like, all right, well, if I don't write the policy, if that's on them, it ain't on me. But if I don't write the policy and I'm not doing the other things, I feel like it's my fault. What did I do wrong? Why am I not a good enough agent? This and that, right? So it's like they all come back together if you don't have a routine about your life that kind of brings you back down to reality and calms you down when you're going through hardships, right? If you want to call it in this business, which there's a lot of them, unfortunately, right? This is an up and down business. So
100%. And I love how you said that the routine essentially ties everything together, right? Like your lack of routine or your act in your routine is going to dictate typically what that day or week looks like for you. And that's not just me and Vernon, guys. That's everybody on this call. I love how you said you're trying to learn Spanish because like honestly, like maybe I need to implement that. I just don't know how good I'm going to be, but Vernon, I'm going for it too, man. That's a great one. Because even if you spend 10 minutes learning Spanish, dude, every day, it's like that it's a compounding effect, right?
Right.
Also,
So,
like you're
Marisa, I was just going to say, just to touch on that, the reason where I got that from is Jim Rohn. I'm sure a lot of people don't know who Jim Rohn is. He passed away, but he was probably my favorite motivational speaker and whatnot. And he said that anyone who learns 2 to 3 languages are more likely to become a millionaire because you can be diverse in different ways of making money, not just in America, but maybe overseas as well. Right. So that's kind of where I got that from. And so right now I'm learning Spanish and I'm probably going to learn Thai after I get fluent with Spanish. So I'm just going at it little by little every day. It's very much like this business, and whoever speaks Spanish or multiple language, you already know this. But speaking Spanish or learning it is just like this business. Like every time I wake up and turn it on and I go through a sentence, it's like I'm making another phone call, and I was able to go through another table setting or writing a policy. Maybe it was something unique or different, where there's an IUO versus a whole life. And I feel like there's a lot of similarities to learning Spanish. It's just every day you just do a little bit, little bit, little bit. Oh, now that word makes sense. Why they wrote it in this context versus that, or whatever might be past tense versus current. It all kind of relates to life insurance in so many ways. And so, that's how I would answer that question. So I
and no,
forgot
I
what you
love
would ask me
that.
in the first place. Sorry.
No, but it's like, you're chipping away at a process, right? It's like when we
In a
get
way of
back
the
in the gym,
process.
like we haven't been there, like we're chipping away at the process, but we gotta, it's gonna hurt before it's gonna, we're gonna see the result. Same thing, like you probably aren't gonna be that great at Spanish until you're that great at Spanish. Then you're gonna be like, boom, wow, this was working. Like I'm putting all these sentences together. It's beautiful, right? But I love how you said like you have to have a routine that ties you together. Guys, your routine is going to look different than mine and different than Vernon's. It should at least, anyways. Like it's kind of like now, if Vernon's routine, you're like, I love that, copy it, paste it, it might work for you. But it's like if you don't have the same values, so to say, or things that are going to make you feel good about yourself, like just tweak and adjust them around that. Maybe you don't want to work out, maybe you want to journal. That's cool. But guys, you got to figure out what's going to make you tick in a good way. What grounds you? That's what you said, Vernon. I think that that's really important. Like, what's going to ground you so that you can get on the phone and you can know if that person doesn't buy, it wasn't because of something you did or didn't do. Like you were grounded, you were there for the client, you were doing the best you could. And I think that it all ties back together. So I love how you're bringing that in because, guys, if you start your day on a positive note, you're usually going to keep it going on a positive note. And there's going to be very minimal things that are going to get you like into a really upset, or highly elevated or emotional place. Because Vernon, like you also mentioned, this business, we can have crazy high highs and crazy low lows, but we have to have a way we can just sit here, right? And like mellow ourselves out. So I love how you said that, like essentially the routine ties it together. And it's funny that you brought up Jim Rohn and the two language thing because I've actually heard that so many times. And I'm like, when you said it, I was like Jim Rohn. And then he's like Jim Rohn. And I'm like, boom. So guys, if you haven't heard anything from Jim Rohn, he's no longer with us, but there's a plenty of stuff on YouTube that's absolutely amazing. So Jim's the man. But with that being said, you have recently been sharing the opportunity a bit more, it seems like. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is.
So, talk to us a little bit about why you've been putting that effort behind recruiting. Like why do you feel like you want to build a business here?
So when in the right place, I'll leave it at that. Everybody else who knows can fill in the blanks themselves. But when you're in the right place and it feels like you have the support that you need, right? Whether it's me talking to Christina or Marisa or Rami or Heather or anybody else that's in the group that I can speak to, right? You feel like if I can grow, I can help other people grow as well, right? It's just offering that opportunity to others. And I'll just say in the past, I didn't feel like I could do that because I felt like if if I'm not in the right state of mind because I don't feel like I'm comfortable, why would I bring somebody else into that chaos as well? But when you feel like you have a team that literally like has your back and supports you no matter where they're at in the nation, you want to bring people into that environment, right? Because maybe they're in a place where they're not making any money at all or barely any money, but now you can take them from a place from lacking to a place of abundance. And I'm now sharing that opportunity. So it's not like I haven't been sharing it. It's just I'm pushing harder now And sometimes proof is in the pudding by you doing it, people seeing it, putting yourself out on social media. Again, I'm still trying to get better with that. Like Christina's helping me with that, but still trying to get better with that. But as you do that, more people see you, and then you get this random text out of nowhere. Hey, so what are you doing? Hey, life insurance, not really, I didn't think to do that, but can you tell me more about it? I want to get a policy myself, but maybe I want to actually get into the business. So it's like just by putting yourself out there, it's people just see you, and then you're going to have more people talking to you. So that gives me more confidence. But now, like literally everywhere I go, which I work from home, so I'm not out very often, but when I do go out, if whoever's our server, I'm talking to every server, right? Or it might be me and Paul sitting at the table, and we're like, hey, I think he's the one. Yeah, I think she's the one. She's got it. Right. And then one of us will just talk to her, right? And hand out a business card, him or her, and hand out a business card. And then it's just up to them if they want to take the opportunity or not. Right. It could be like Brittany. It could be like Brittany, where was it, the 9 months, a year, or whatever it was since you guys first connected. And then she reached out, and then now she's crushing it in the business. So some people just take time, but unless you speak, unless you take that at bat, right? You can't hit any balls that you don't take in a bat on or take swings on. So now I'm just out there talking to as many people as I can when I'm out and about. And even though it's not every day that I'm out, but when I do, I try to speak to as many people as I can. And all I'm doing is just offering them my opportunity, whether it's my family or random strangers that I don't know. It's just an opportunity. At the end of the day, I keep it real with them. Hey, this is a hard business. You're going to get smacked in the face repeatedly. You're thinking something good happened. I just got paid this commission that hit my bank account for $3,000, and then the next day, hey, you have a chargeback for 1,500. And it's like it's just the way it is. But as long as you, like say, stick to that routine that Heather was talking about and all that stuff, you just override that, and you never even notice it. It's just like a bump in the road. It goes about like, oh, that sucks, but then all of a sudden it's written over and you're back into the positive again, right? So that's, I think, what's got me where I'm wanting to talk to more people and to actually try to bring more people to the team. Most of the people you talk to, they're going to say, "Oh, this all sounds good," and you never talk to them again, right? And I can't remember how many times I've texted Christina like, "Hey, I got someone who I think is going to be good," and then they just ghost you the rest of the. It just is what it is. But it's right now. I'm just trying to get at bats. I want as many at bats as I can get, and then hoping that the good ones who really want it will show up, and then when they do, they'll do what we coach them to do, and they're willing to be coachable, and that's kind of where I'm at. So yeah, I'm in a different place now, and also it's unfortunate that I waited this long to even push this hard, but a lot of it was confidence of like, I don't know if I can help other people as well, right? Not realizing and putting it on my team to help me, right? So I didn't have to do it on my own. So now I literally feel like it's not just on me. So then now I feel more confident bringing them in as well, because they can lean on everybody that's in this group here. So.
Absolutely. And that's huge. I love how you brought up, like the confidence of just talking to people. You're just offering them an opportunity, whether they decide to take it or they decide not to. Your feelings aren't hurt. You know that you offered it to somebody that you saw, hey, might be a good fit, right? Now I think that you talked about like, hey, if you and Paul are out, you might just be like, hey, like this server's great. Like one of us is going to talk to that person. Now, I think a lot of us go to a space of like, what do we say? Like, oh my God, what do we do? What do we say? How do we act? Like,
Right.
do we like, like what happens, right? It's like,
Yeah.
Vernon, if I'm your server, right? Just if you don't mind, a quick role play, right?
Yep.
Like, and you like me, you've been having a good experience, like, and you're gonna drop it. Like, just go ahead and tell folks like maybe what you're saying, because I don't think that you make it that deep, and maybe you do, but I don't think it is, right? So, like,
Right.
talk to me a little bit about that combo.
Yeah, so when I see someone that comes up and I think has potential, I always wait to the end of the meal so it's not awkward back and forth in between. I always wait till we get the check and then kind of start talking at that point, or leave my business card with them. But I'll say, I always say, do you keep your income options open? And
And
then
I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
role play with me.
right. And well, most of them look at me like, what does that mean? Right. And so different ways that you can make money out of what you're doing now. And so they'll say, oh, yes, I do buy. What do you have? And I say, well, if there's an opportunity that you could work from home and make an additional $5,000 a month, and you don't even have to leave the job that you're doing, right? You could, if you just want to do it part-time and just kind of work your way into it more if you want to, it's an opportunity to do that. Would you be interested in knowing more information about it? And then they'll say yes, right? Yeah, I want to know more. And then at that point, I'll usually give out my business card and say, look, give me a call. I'm going to send you a short video. Watch that short video. If it makes sense for where you're at, then of course I can take you to the next step. And then of course, even if this doesn't apply to you, you can give that information, that video to other people who you think might be a good fit for them as far as doing what we do. And so that's usually kind of where I go with that. If they go, so I can make about 5 grand part-time. I say, yes, you can make five, as long as you're coachable, you work hard and you follow what we're telling you to do. Yes, you can definitely do that. And then I'll kind of give them an example like, hey, let's just say, hey, I do 5 grand a week, right? So I might go there and give them that example depending on how that conversation is going. Because some people, it's too much for them to think that they can do over 20 grand a month, right? They can't fathom that, right? There was
Yep.
somebody that I was talking to this weekend at the lock-in. I don't think she's in this group. Oh, no, she is. There was somebody in this group, I won't say her name, who was like, my family never came from money, right? And I can't even imagine depositing 20 grand a month. It just doesn't fit what my family comes from. And that's when I told her, like, but you could be the first. You could be the trendsetter, right? You could be the one that first starts that. So, you're looking at, hey, if I could just issue 10,000 a month. I'm like, that's nothing. Like you're really barely even paying your bills. Like you need to be at 20,000 issue paid to even really kind of break even in this business because of the taxes, the chargebacks, and all that stuff. So when I talk to the clients, I kind of meet them where they're not clients, I'm sorry, potential recruit. I kind of meet them where they're at. If if they seem like when I first say 5,000 per month, they don't go like shock and all kind of a thing, right? Then I'll probably talk about, hey, but full time, should you decide to move over into it, you could potentially do that 5,000 plus per week if you really want to, and you're coachable. So that's kind of how I take it and then go from there. And then they usually will say, oh, yeah, all right, I'll give you a call. And then they send me a text and then I'll give them the information. We go from there.
In Vernon, if like let's just say hypothetically I was your server and you did that spiel with me, right? And you left your information, I never reach out to you. Do you feel like
Mhm.
it's personal?
No. Oh, yeah, why would it be? I mean, everybody's in a different place at every point in their time. So my brother's on his call right now, and obviously I think Paul's going to be crushing this business, right, as time goes on, as he gets his groove. But he's known me all his life, and I've been doing this for over 2 years. And guess what? Only now he's jumping into it, right? He had his own personal demons, or his I call it personal demons. We all have them of why he didn't want to move, or mainly I'm a W-2 employee. This is what I know, guaranteed paycheck. And then he's like, but you got sick and you just stayed home and you didn't have to go anywhere, and money was still kind of coming in. Well, then I had to go to work, and this I'm speaking of Paul. Had to go to work, and then I'm sweating my butt off. I'm sick too, and people are like, "What's going on with you?" And you're like, "Well, I have to be here. That's I don't get paid, right?" And that was when the reality kicked in. Like, oh, so if I just own my own business, I could just stay home when I need to stay home, and I can still make money from there as well. And I can just kind of roll out of bed if I need to make a sale, right? And so that's kind of where where I'm at with that and how I would answer that question for you.
I love that. And it's like again, guys, it's like there's nothing personal about recruiting. Like there's nothing personal about it. Like you didn't make the company. You're not the magic. I don't care if you're on this call and you write 150 million a month personally. You're not the magic. The system is. All we're doing is taking folks from not knowing to knowing about an opportunity, which is never a bad thing. And I love how you also talked about, you hit on this a bit, Vernon, is you're not talking to people and being like, this is a cakewalk, and all you have to do is spend 5 minutes and log in, and next thing you know, 5 grand's deposited. You're setting expectations. So, with that being said, when you are bringing somebody in, or somebody's like, hey, Vernon, I looked over the video and I'm really interested in you, like, what are some of the expectations that you're setting on the front end to make sure that this person is the right fit for you and for your team?
So this is a hard question because there's things that I've heard differently from like Sean Mike and others where Sean Michael sometimes will say, hey, bring everyone in, right? Because it may not be that person, it might be the person that they know that's the stud, right? And so when I come in, and Stephen E talked about this as well, is I really talk about the good, bad, and ugly when it comes to this. I'm going to say, look, you're going to get hung up on, you're going to get cussed out, you're going to get told slurs, right? You're going to go jump off a cliff, right? And if you're not someone that can handle that, that's not in you, then this is probably not the business for you, right? I'll say, hey, look, most people come to this business, they have to come in with a little bit of money, right? There's got to be an investment into this because it's not a W-2 job. right? This is your own 1099 business. You are your own boss. I'm not your supervisor, right? Christina's not my supervisor. It's just we're all associates working together for a common goal, right? And so I'll kind of bring up that things like you have. And so for me, most of the time, I'll say, hey, if you can't come in with at least 500 to 1,000 bucks to invest in your business, then this is probably not the time for you or the business for you. Now, again, but then I'll go back and go, now, say you don't particularly have that right now. The first thing you have to do, right, is like how you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So what do we do? Let's get your license first, right? Might cost you, depending on what state you're in, might be 45, 49 bucks, whatever it is. Arizona, I think it's like 49 to get your license. After that, now you can pay to get your background check, which is probably another 25 bucks, and then your license and it's like 100 some bucks, at least for Arizona. So like I'll tell them like the total for me to get mine was just under 200 bucks in my state, but every state's different. But at least it gives you kind of a ballpark of what you're looking for. So once they know that, then I'll say after we get to that point, now we can start worrying about let's stack that 500 to 1,000 so we can start off on a good foot buying leads, right? Use half of that money to buy your first batch of leads while you're running those leads, and hopefully you'll close 1 to 3 policies out of that while you're waiting to get paid on those because there's a delay at the very first part. Now you can use that second 500 bucks or whatever it might be to get your second batch of leads and start running those while that money's going into your bank account, right? Or while we wait for the money to get put into your bank account. And that's usually how I'll get my spiel. And then usually that's where I lose them at, is right in that 1,000 bucks, because they don't want to figure out, at least at that time, how to raise the 1,000, right? If you know, somebody I think said it on here or somewhere else that if I would sell you a good quality Lamborghini or Range Rover or whatever for 1,000 bucks, would you not find that 1,000 bucks? And they would find it for someone, they'd borrow for someone, they'd put it on a credit card. But most of us just go, I can't fathom paying 1,000 bucks. And then that takes me back to, well, you're probably still in that W-2 mindset, and you're always going to stay there until you decide to change and realize that this 1,000 bucks is actually going to change your life. And you got to believe that, right? And so that's how I kind of talk to my or potential recruits, and then it's up to them on if they want to move forward or not. But yeah.
I love that. I think it's really important to get like the good, the bad, the ugly out so that when they do come in, it's like, hey, I told you this was going to happen. Like I told you that every day wasn't going to be a cakewalk. I told you people are going to hang up on you. I told you you're going to get rejection. I told you if you can't handle getting a lot of no's in a day and you're going to feel really beat up after that, like this might not be for you because everybody tells me no every day too. You're making sure that's done on the front end. I told you there's an initial investment in your license, right? Like you're going step by step. And I think that that's huge too.
Marissa,
Now,
can I say one more thing before I
yeah,
go? So I learned this at the lock-in. I walked up to Trey Honeycutt. He was there, of course. And I said, how do you get over the I don't have the 1,000 bucks to get into the business kind of thing? And he said that there's multiple ways that you can help your clients. He's like, and I've done every one of them, right? And then this is Trey talking. Yeah, from if it's someone who I think is going to be a pain in my side, I'll say, hey, look, it's $6,000 to get into the business, right? If you got the 6,000, you can come on in and you can start your business. Because he was basically saying, I don't think I want to work with this person, but if they're willing to make a $6,000 sacrifice, I'm not gonna. Who am I to stop them? To people who like don't have any money, but you can tell that they sincerely just want to work hard and have an opportunity and put into sweat equity for it. He's like, I might have bought them leads to get right, just at least at the beginning, so they can prove that they really do want to work hard. And once I see that, they're making the money that they can now buy their own leads. So he's like, it just depends on who I'm talking to, on how if I'm willing to give a little bit. Because he's like, what you don't want to do is bleed out your company, right? You don't want to be at the point where now you can't pay your bills because you're trying to get Joe Schmo onto the team and up and running, right? So it's got to be where you're writing. And then he came back to me and said, Vernon, you got to be writing enough business that you can even fund this and help your new agents coming in. Whether you want to give them a hand or you don't, you've got to have the money for that so that your business doesn't go under. So as long as you're doing your job, you have options there at that particular point on how you want to handle that. And based on each particular, because he said it's not a one size fits all for every agent. It's not like everyone has to be $1,000 or else you can't even get into the thing. It depends on the rapport you get with that person as you're talking to them. Do you feel like they're a super hard worker? They just are hard times financially, whatever it might be, and then you go off of that. So that's the information I got from Trey this weekend. And he's like, you're probably going to forget that and come back and and ask me that again. And I told my brother Paul, I'm like, I'm not. You're challenging me right now. You said that because you're challenging me to make sure that I did write that notes down and I'm keeping that and moving forward. And now I can train that and give that to somebody else, which I am today, right? The best way to learn is to teach, right? And so that's where we're at.
Amen. And it's a copycat business, right? Like that answer is not going to be different from Trey to me than it was from Trey to you. You know what I mean? And so everybody else on this call, guys. So like, that's huge. And I love how you just keep everything simple and you look at it as an opportunity, right? It's like I love meeting seeing you and then meeting Paul with you, your brother, like it was awesome. It was a great interaction. It was cool to see. And it's not just like, okay, this is your brother. It's like that makes it more exciting and more fun. But at the same time, it's like he's ready. He understands the assignment. He's not confused. He's not like, oh, Vernon's just gonna let me hang by his wayside and Vernon's gonna do it all for me, right? He's like, no, I'm ready to get to work with Vernon and we're going to crush this thing together. Like, so like you guys are running your own race too at the same time. I think that's important that we don't lose sight of that when we're kind of bringing people in. Now, Vernon, I got two last questions for you just for the sake of time. Question I want to ask you is if you could think of a time, you've been in the business for how long now, Vernon? Approximate.
It's been, I think, 2 years, 4 months, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So a little over 2 years, right? So is it fair to say you've had some really good months and some really like not good months?
Oh my gosh, back to back. One really good and then back to back, like one of the lowest. Like I've seen the highest and the lowest. At least I feel like I have. Yes.
Amen. Okay, so I'm with you there. So talk to us a little bit about maybe a time that you can remember that you were doing really well, and then all of a sudden things kind of felt like they dropped off. And
Yeah.
from there, kind of what did you do to correct it, or what did you inspect to correct it?
Sure. So I've had situations where I've had like say 2 good months in a row and I was using my dial tracker, Heather, and I was tracking everything, all my dials, and I was like competing against myself using a piece of paper. Because if you use a dial tracker, you're almost competing against yourself because you want to beat the day before or what have you. You want to shade in more boxes and whatnot. So when I had my best months, I think my best month was like 32, 33,000 or something like that, which is not high, but it's higher than most, right? And so but when I issued that month, I think I'm not 100% back-to-back months or not. But when I did that, I was literally tracking everything. I was on the phone on a consistent basis. I came in at a certain time, I left at a certain time, and that was my best month. And then I got comfortable. And then the next month, it was my worst month because I thought that momentum would just keep flowing, and it doesn't. And Nina Hill said this, and I think a year ago, she said that even when I went on vacation, I came back, it's like I couldn't sell a policy. It's almost like the universe says the energy is off. You shouldn't have stopped what you were doing. And now we're going to kind of put you in a negative for a little while and humble you for a little bit. Because even while you're on vacation, you probably should have still made some calls to keep the momentum flowing. And it just seems like the universe just knows that when you stop working, it stops working for you. Right. And so that's what I know. Like that's the difference between the two. The high and the low is my work ethic totally dropped off, and therefore the results totally dropped off. And of course, that's the month that all the chargebacks come kicking in too, right? Because
Of
that's just the
course it
way the
is.
world works, right? So, yeah.
Yep. And guys, like I'm asking Vernon these questions intentionally because Vernon, I appreciate you for this. I'm the same way. I'm the kind of person that can be like, this is what it actually looks like. Like, this is what actually happens when we do that. Like, and the first two things you said were tracking and schedule, right? I wasn't following a schedule. I stopped tracking my stuff. I was just kind of like, I got this. I'm too good for the system, right?
Right.
And whether we're doing it consciously or subconsciously, I've been guilty of that too, Vernon, by the way. So I'm not hating on you here. I'm trying to bring perspective in, guys. It's like Vernon and me are not the only two people on this call that have done that. I can tell you every single person on this call, whether you think you have or you think you haven't, unless this is your first month, like you're doing it to yourself. Like if you had a crazy high month or a couple of crazy high months and now you're not, it's because you think, or your subconscious brain somewhere out there thinks you're too good for the system. You're too good for what you were doing when you were getting that result. So it's like you got to go back to what you were doing when you were getting the result. And Vernon, that's what you keep going back to. And I love how you even brought in that example of Nina bringing up a vacation and like, hey, it's almost like I always say the insurance gods, right? Like they're like, they know what we're due. They know how much work we put in. They know how much work we don't put in. They know when we follow our schedule. They know when we don't follow our schedule. They know when we push for our clients. I think about it like pushing for our beneficiaries. That's how I honestly think about it because They're not going to be with us. Like, how hard did we actually try? I feel like there's insurance gods up there and they're like, okay, let's help Vernon out today because he's killing it. He's been following his schedule. There's also going to be times that you're following your schedule for like a week and you're like, something's got to give. I'm doing everything. I'm tracking my numbers, I'm following my schedule, I'm doing my activity. Nothing's happening. It's because it goes back to that CA that Vernon brought up in the beginning, that consistent activity. Nobody cares if you did it today.
Right.
Everybody cares if you did it today, yesterday, the day before, tomorrow, next week, Thursday afternoon, and Saturday, if that's what your schedule says, guys. So it's like it brings us all back to like, hey, when you feel out of sort in this business, go back to the basics. Go back to the basic fundamentals that you learned from that helped you get a result. Go back to the leads you were purchasing, going back to the schedule you were following, go back to the people you were talking to, go back to the people that you weren't talking to, right? Because that can make a big difference too, the
Yeah.
people around us. So it's like, guys, when you're feeling that way, it's really easy to point at something and be like, it's the leads. Vernon, it's the leads. Everybody in Massachusetts is just awful. They just don't want life insurance. Like, nope, maybe they don't want life insurance from me. Maybe something about me changed. Because what I can tell you guys is the market didn't change for life insurance. I don't care where you live, where you reside. And guys, at this point, we all have so many different state licenses. It's like, I live here in Massachusetts. I used to only write Massachusetts in home. But like, I don't know the last time I wrote a Massachusetts policy. It's like, guys, stop blaming other factors outside of you. When you can put that, put the mirror at you and you can look at you. And just like Vernon led the call with, I'm not in denial. Guys, I'm not in denial either. There's a lot of things I can do better, but I'm trying to get better every single day. And that's all we can do. But if you are waking up and beating the heck out of yourself because of what's going on or what happened the day before, or you're talking to Johnny Smith who issued $3,400 last year, like you're going to get a really negative result going into next week. Like a really, really negative one. Stay away from people who don't get results in this business. Stay away from people who talk negative about the business, unless you want to get out of it. If you want to get out of it, go join the group of people who talk negative about the business. You'll be out of it in a couple hours. Promise you. You'll be like, I'm going back to corporate America and I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I love my boss. I don't know why I ever left. But it's like, if you don't want to be in that place, guys, you got to shine the light back at you. And that's sometimes the hardest thing that we can do, but it's the most necessary thing that needs to be done. Like it just needs to be done. So like I love all of you guys. Vernon, this call was amazing. What I want to wrap it up on a lighter note is what are your goals here in 2025? You're growing as a person. I can just see it. You're killing it as a producer. You over here on the call like, oh, I only issue like 35,000, like only 35, which I love about you, Vernon. But at the end of the day, I know you have some massive goals, not only for yourself, but like talk to us business, personal, 2025. What's in the cards for you, Vernon?
So my goal this year for FFL for my personal business off my own pen is to do a 500,000 off my own pen, right? I can be honest and say that I've never done more than 2.5 or 26, 260, I think is the highest, right? But I'm confident that with the skill set I have and using the momentum from the prior, and then now having my brother who's going to be pushing me as well, I believe that I'm going to do 500,000 this year. And I'm going to go on the record and say that I think that my brother Paul is going to make Hall of Fame this year as well. I'm
Let's
just putting it out
go.
into the world. Now, and then personal stuff, just consistently just continue to work out and things like that. I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to make a sacrifice because it's all about what you're about to, what you're willing to sacrifice in this business. My goal was to go to Thailand May 1st to May 15th to kind of see what it's all about, what's all the hoopla about, because I may potentially retire there someday. I'm telling you guys on this call, I'm going to make the sacrifice and I'm not going to Thailand this year because I want to crush this business and I want to make sure I'm putting my time where it needs to be at and being consistent in the business. So I'd rather take that time that I was going to go there and I'm going to put it into more lock-ins or just different events where I'm going to be able to grow and help my team grow as well. And so there we go.
I love that. And Vernon, I am not betting against you or Paul for that matter. You guys are going to be an amazing duo, no doubt. So 500K, Vernon, on you. No doubt, Paul, you want to hit that Hall of Fame number. I can see you both with those red jackets on now. And the cool thing too about doing like, 260K, only 260K, by the way. Like Vernon, you're just so humble. It's great. But the fun thing about 260K is already, Vernon, like up here, like you can do Hall of Fame numbers. It's just a matter of like, do I want to do it, right? And like, you're like, I want to do it. I'm going to sacrifice this trip to Thailand that I already had planned out, but was going to be 2 weeks long. And I'm going to allocate those 2 weeks of traveling, maybe somewhere else within the business, or maybe somewhere else is going to make sense to help me grow and become that person that I'm trying to be, so to say. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for your group. You guys are going to kill it. And guys, this call was amazing. This is what I'm going to go back to, honestly, just to listen a lot more. And Vernon, you have said a lot of great things in here, guys. And I just want to quickly hit on them. Like one more time, not being in denial is a very, very, very powerful thing to not be. Okay. Consistently doing things, consistent activity, CA. That's the second thing I want everyone to note from this call. Consistent activity wins, not just activity. Activity doesn't win if you just do it once. If I go try to run a marathon right now, like I'm definitely not going to make it, guys. So don't challenge me to do that. All right. I'm not going to make it. But I wouldn't do that, guys, because I know I'm not prepared. So get prepared. And then also offering the opportunity. Don't make it weird. You don't have to go up to people and start talking about 20K a month. It is hard for people to internalize 20K a month. But adding 5,000, okay, we can talk about that. We can do that, right? We can talk. That makes sense to most people. And then understanding like you're in control of your daily routine. Whatever you do or don't decide to do when you wake up is probably going to dictate how you feel about yourself and other people throughout the day. So try to make it positive, not only for other people, mostly be selfish in this case. Be selfish and do it for you. Do it like because you serve a higher power. I spend time alone with God. Even when I wake up and I'm in like the worst, it's like, no, I need to spend time with God because that's going to help me center myself. If not, I don't know. I'm probably going to be a loose cannon and everybody's going to be like, what is her deal? Right? Like y'all don't want to talk to me. Okay. If I don't spend time with God. But outside of that, Vernon, I can't thank you enough. I'm super excited for your goals here in 2025. No doubt you're going to hit them. I really appreciate you just being willing to be on and being open to the team and always just so humble and vulnerable. So thank you, Vernon. I appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Marissa. I appreciate it. Thank you.